Welcome to the Making Health Doable podcast. I'm Cheryl Borchardt.
And I'm Sarah Shaw.
And together we're your hosts on this journey as you learn what it takes to live well.
We are dedicated to tackling topics that empower you to make massive progress in your health and wellness journey by using our pillars of health: eat well, move well, live well, and respond well.
At Doable Health, our mission is simple: to help everyone live well. As a team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts, we're here to serve employees and first responders with coaching, workshops, and masterclasses designed to conquer stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our dedication doesn't stop there. We're also committed to improving wellness for individuals like you by offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual seeking better health, we believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So join us as we embark on this journey together, where we'll provide you with the tools, insights, and encouragement you need to thrive.
And stay tuned for enlightening discussions, expert interviews, and actionable advice that will inspire you to take charge of your well-being and live your best life.
Until next time, remember, life can feel better when health is made doable.
Finally we begin, we have an exciting new offering from Doable Health: at-home lab testing with our integrative health practitioner, Janine Finelli.
I'm Janine Finelli, integrative health practitioner, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and VP at Doable Health. We offer at-home functional lab testing for individuals to test and not guess when it comes to their health. Whether you are interested in a deep dive under the hood because you love to geek out on numbers and want to really focus on moving forward with prevention, or you have symptoms, brain fog, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, insomnia, low or no libido, water retention, headaches, all sorts of things that you just cannot figure out where they're coming from, through our at-home functional medicine lab testing with the best of the best labs out there, we can help give you answers. Schedule your initial consult with me so you can test and not guess by going online at doable.com/test. And for a limited time, get 10% off your initial consultation by using the code PODCAST in the checkout screen. doable.com/test.
So today we're joined by Debbie Baisden, a remarried widow, mom of 4 boys, and passionate follower of Jesus. With a heart for helping others, she runs 2 successful online fitness and nutrition businesses, Momsanity and Fit with Deb. Through her work, Debbie empowers women to lead healthier, more fulfilling lives while balancing faith, family, and fitness. Debbie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me as a guest. I'm super excited.
I know. Well, Debbie and I have been friends for quite a long time, so you may see some of our friendship come out as we're talking today. I kind of hope you do. But today we're going to be talking about resilience through loss, and I've invited Debbie today to share how she has navigated life after the sudden loss of her first husband, Aaron. So back in 2012 is when this tragedy happened in Debbie's life. So Debbie, in the beginning, share with us a little bit about what you did. How did you put one foot in front of the other in order just to take care of your family?
Probably not well. That's my knee-jerk answer is not well. I kind of felt like I was walking around in the dark. There was no hint of light. It was so overwhelming. It was tangibly paralyzing. And I feel like when I go back to those first raw days, it was only because of 2 things: God and other people, that I could even walk to the mailbox. I felt like having those pre-existing social connections kept me vertical, because I was like, without friends and family, I'm just flailing around. And so I felt very debilitated. I could not think straight. I felt like it took effort to just breathe in and then breathe out. So it was kind of a fog. I feel like that's pretty typical for people who are grieving. You're just kind of a zombie, just walking through your house and having no idea what's going on.
I cannot imagine, number one, what that was like. But I guess having people there to help you to just do the things that you couldn't do every single day, probably caring for your kids and cooking for you and cleaning for you and all of the things that needed to happen. How long did you feel like you were in that space? Did that take a long time for you to move out of that feeling?
That's a good question. I know that the first couple of weeks, there was so much business. It was like the business of death, the paperwork, where I was just half of the bed that I was sleeping on was just all of the papers that had to be filed and signed. But my in-laws were staying with us for the first 2 weeks. My brother was there for at least a week. So I feel like the first 2 months were kind of the critical part of everything where I'm trying to absorb this information that cannot be absorbed. And then after that, I feel like it's almost like putting your foot in a really cold pool of water. And at first it's so cold, but after a few months, you're like, I think I can get into my ankles. I think I can get up to my knee, and just being able to slowly adjust to this new normal, I guess you would say. So it was several months. I'm not sure I've become normal even today. Really.
Yeah. Well, I assume that do you remember things from those early days? Is it blurry to you?
I feel like it was yesterday. So I remember even sitting on our bed and staring at a blank section of our wall. And I thought, even this blank section of wall carries significance. Even this is meaningful. Every inch of the house is so important and just saturated with memories. And so I'm like, you can't block it out. You want to hit the pause button and have some kind of escape. And there is none other than being asleep. That was as close to escape as I could get. So I do remember, I think, most things of friends and family visiting and saying nice things and doing nice things. But I think a lot of it was still fuzzy because nothing mattered to me anymore. I didn't really care about those details that I would have cared about before Aaron passed away. So it kind of depends on what I'm trying to recall. Some things are super clear, and I think other things probably not so much.
Yeah. When you're going through all of that, the grief, like we've talked about this a lot, just maybe from moment to moment is really, you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how you're going to feel probably when you wake up and I know this week is the anniversary of Aaron's death too. So this has probably been a very emotional week for you. What have been the personal strategies, maybe coping strategies that you've used in your life to be able to pick up and move forward?
I think having kids made it difficult, but also made it doable. Like I really feel like without being a mom, I could have had the luxury and also the awfulness of staying under the covers all day in bed crying. So I had to keep functioning because they are expecting breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I feel like that in itself, being forced to parent, made me vertical, made me productive. But I felt like it really brought the Bible to life more so than it had been before, where I'm like, listen, God, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Like I have to be so sold out. I have to learn more about the Bible. I have to tell my children more about what the Bible says. I'm relying on other people every single day, whether it's friends or family or neighbors. And I basically, as far as coping, I think my strategy was do as little as humanly possible. I did the paperwork that I was forced to do legally, but otherwise, like I mentioned, the mailbox, just going to the mailbox was all the field trip I could handle. So I didn't have a lot of bandwidth, and I was thankful again for school. That was a coping mechanism that kids would be out of the house, and so I could basically almost schedule grief work time just to be still, to go through pictures. But I feel like in the end, all I really had was people and God. And I think I didn't read any grief books. So I'm of zero help knowing any grief books to read because it wasn't what I wanted or needed, I guess.
Right. Yeah, some people seek those things out and look for every single resource they can absorb to try to like navigate what they're going through. I've heard different stories from different people who've been through loss and experienced this type of grief. But what about counseling? Was that something that you used or your kids used?
Yeah. And, that's another fuzzy memory of somebody was helping us get started
Yeah.
with counseling. It was amazing that hospice did play therapy, at least for the older two kids. The younger two were too young to qualify for counseling. I guess little people don't have feelings. Well, it was, I can't say enough good things. It was absolutely incredible how they could play in the sand. And this counselor would then take me aside and explain what all of this meant because I wanted them to experience as much healing as possible. Like, let's dive in. Let's acknowledge how absolutely terrible, rotten, sad, confusing, frustrating this is. Let's not pretend everything is fine, but instead, I think I've kind of always said, let's keep the wound as fresh as possible. Scrape out the nastiness so there's no infection, there's no pus. We're not just going to put a Band-Aid on it. Keep it clean. And that means doing really hard heart work. So I was in counseling. I found the twins, someone who would see someone at that age, and she would go fishing with them. Everything was as good as it could be in a really tough spot.
Mm-hmm. And now your boys are how old?
Now they're 20, 19, 16, and 16, which is crazy. At the time they were 4 to 8.
Yeah.
And so I think now they're in such a different phase of life that they see things differently. I mean, obviously, they have a whole different viewpoint than they did in those first raw days.
I'm sure in those days, they're probably just asking questions that any child would ask. Like, did you have those types of things? Like where they would just maybe ask, where's Daddy? You had to tell them this. You had to break this news to them too.
It was mostly Andrew, one of the youngest, who had lots of questions as far as what if there's a magic ring that could bring Daddy back? And I was like, that would be amazing. I wish there was a magic ring. So there were lots of these bargaining questions that he would ask a lot, like, what if this? What if this? And I had to keep driving back to, I would validate those feelings and say, I wish that was possible. I wish we could go back in time. But this was an accident and we didn't know it was coming. We didn't see it or we would have prevented it. And so I had to keep being a safe place where you can share your frustrations in your tiny 4-year-old way and say, I hear you, yet that is not going to happen. I can't create a false hope. But I was actually surprised after I sat them all down on the bed and told them the worst statement I've ever had to say in my life. They never asked again, where is Daddy? When is Daddy coming home? Why isn't Daddy coming home? I don't know how they could process the finality of death. There was a time we were driving by the funeral home weeks or months after Aaron had been cremated. The funeral is long gone. And one of the boys said, that's that place. Can we go in and visit Daddy? And I said, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense because that's where you saw him in the casket. He's not there now, though. And the other brother said, don't you know he was cremated? And he's the what is cremated? And so that was this traumatic listening experience as the older brother is explaining, here's what it means to be cremated. And I said, remember, he is still alive, just not here. We can't see him. We can't touch him. We can't visit him, but he is in heaven where he is real and alive and you will get to see him again. But some of those little moments with those tiny brains, it just makes you shake your head. It's unbelievable how they think.
Oh, I'm sure that that was some of the hardest stuff you ever had to do. But yeah, to see what things they think about and how a sibling explains something that they maybe understand this much more of and not much more of. And I mean, we know death is just hard anyway. Like it's hard to wrap your brain around what it is. I mean, we all know it's going to happen and we're all going to have to go through it and go through loss. But we can't, like, I don't think we ever are going to be able to understand and wrap our heads around it like right now.
No, I don't think so.
What do you do? How do you handle like unexpected things that come up, like triggers that just take your breath away and things maybe you don't expect? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think, and that's something that I've noticed over time is sometimes those kind of anniversary moments will force reflection, but other times I will just catch a certain angle of one of our son's faces. And it's this instant jolting moment of, oh my goodness, that's your dad. And so it's this unexpected time to remind myself, oh, he's not here. He's gone. I still have to today, 12 years later, remind myself he is not here. And my oldest traveling to Africa just a few weeks ago, it did get kicked up of this unexpected fear that I had of what if he doesn't make it? What if I never hear from him again? What if his life ends? And it did start swirling. It felt like I was transported back to 2012, where I was having the same wrestling thoughts of what if the worst happens? What am I going to do? I won't make it. And so I feel like those are the only thing I can do is stop and pray because I have no control. There's nothing I can do. I couldn't reach out and make my child's plane land in Africa, just like I couldn't keep my husband alive. So I feel like those moments, I just have to say, well, whatever happens, if X, then God. It's really all that I have is just prayer and saying, this is the only thing that I can count on. And so I feel the fear, but sometimes grieving is inconvenient. So it's almost like I say, this has to wait a few minutes. I'm not going to have a breakdown in a grocery store or something. So this has to wait till I get back in the car. And I can schedule my grief.
Was that something that you learned through therapy or is that something that you just decided?
I probably learned that in counseling. I had such a great grief counselor. And, I just said, I want to keep feeling the pain. I can't, that whole quote of like, you can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf. I'm like, I want to learn to surf the waves of grief. And sometimes that meant falling apart in front of the kids and being very real. And other times I'm like, just let them get in the school building and then you can sob behind the steering wheel. So it's just kind of a day by day how it worked out.
As it is. That's fine. I mean, truly, I mean, it is hard to think past what's right in front of you, what's happening right now. Thank you for sharing those ways that you've been able to get through it. Have you had, do you experience physical symptoms or anxiety, depression, or stuff that you feel could have been related to grief at any point?
It was interesting that within days, I'm sure even before the funeral happened, I had lots of people reaching out, offering me pills. That was something that I didn't expect, that people were very concerned about me sleeping. Are you sleeping? Do you need sleeping pills? Do you need to manage whatever emotions are happening, whether it's anxiety, depression, just everything being uncontrolled emotionally? And I was like, I am so grateful that I don't know why, but I was able to sleep every single night. I think I was just so emotionally spent that I never had to resort to these other things because I would assume I would. I would have assumed, of course, I'm going to be clutching like a whiskey bottle in the corner, rocking. And I just wasn't. I was still very much hurting. But even as I kind of look back over the past dozen years, I've just been spared from so much. I always say it's been the best lemonade that possibly could have been made. It's the best of the worst. That
Mhm.
I was still very sad. I still struggle with disbelief, but I never was angry that my husband was gone. And I don't feel like I have, a lot of people talk about, stored trauma. I don't feel like I have any of that. I don't have new emotional struggles with anxiety or depression. And again, it's not because of me, not because of me. I am always a hot mess. I think probably God knew I couldn't handle it. Thanks to sweating minutes.
Yeah. Well, and just to have the ability, like you were saying, to just say, it's okay. I'm going to feel all these things and I want to feel all these things. You didn't suppress that. You didn't try to make it not happen or try to maybe be strong for everybody. And if you did, there were times that you were able to get it, to grieve properly and do what you needed to do emotionally. But I think that matters. Like, as a human, we want to avoid pain at all costs. And it is very normal, I think, for us to do that. And it's not possible. It's truly not ever possible to do that.
Yeah, I think there was definite fear. I think the fear part, that's something that's probably pretty hard for me at times if things feel out of control, like if family is traveling, for sure. I think I did want to escape in the form of vacation. I wanted to pull myself out of this spot and let's just go do fun things. Let's go somewhere else. So I think there was some of that, but some of it was like, don't we need some lightness? Because home feels really heavy. So I kind of justified having little getaways as a smaller family to say, I just want this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that kind of makes me think about one of the other questions that I had, which is, the heaviness of the weeks and months right present at that time when you have joy or you have laughter or happiness in your life. And sometimes people say there's guilt associated with that. Did you ever feel that? Did you ever feel bad for laughing or being happy or being joyful?
That was that blindsided me because I had no idea about survivor's guilt. I remember thinking, I don't want anybody to see me smile or laugh because certainly they will assume, oh, well, she's fine. She sure got over him really fast. How can she possibly laugh? There's no way I would be able to laugh. And so I feel like when it did happen, it felt very foreign. It felt wrong. I was like, how dare you? Don't enjoy life. You should have this black veil over your face forever. You should mourn the rest of your days. And yet there were times where the kids were really cute or really funny, or my brother would say something hilarious. And I'm like, yet this feels wrong. It felt wrong. I think even the survivor's guilt, the more I marinated on it, it was hard because I knew I had reminded Aaron, don't you want to go work on your deer stand when the rest of us are out of town? So with him falling out of a deer stand to his death, the survivor's guilt started very rapidly because he had forgotten that he had said he wanted to work on it. And I reminded him. And so to think, if you had just never reminded him, would he have gone out to this deer stand? Would he have fallen to his death? And obviously I cannot undo that, but it started minute one.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the hardest things. And I haven't been through something like this, but as a human, again, think that we all do things differently, but I think that would probably be the hardest thing, would be feeling like I had something to do with it. But we know that's not true. We know that we all have a time and we don't control that, but it's just our human way again of kind of processing and dealing with what's happened. Thank you for letting us have a glimpse into what your journey's been like, this side of your journey. I know you've been on a lot of podcasts and you've talked about different things. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners who might be going through grief or a loss or some kind of traumatic life event that maybe some little words of wisdom that they could take away today?
I feel like just the title that we've talked about, this resilience, I feel like we do have that capacity as humans to have that rubber band get stretched. It can get stretched pretty far, farther than we think a rubber band can get stretched. And then it can come back together. It can still have its same shape. Sometimes it's stretched pretty far and doesn't maintain quite the same shape, but it's still able to have that flexibility. And so I think people in that same analogy have the bounce back ability in their lives that I remember a friend saying, I said, I'm going to crumble. I'm going to crumble when year 2 starts. I just know it. Everybody says you're just, white knuckling through the first year, but the second year is when I'm really going to disintegrate. And she said, no, you won't. No, you won't. And so to say, wait a minute, what I've typically told other grievers is it won't always feel like it does right now.
Mhm.
It's always going to hurt. It's always going to be painful. You're always going to have this void in your life, but I would try to kind of mine what is the purpose of this pain? What are other fault lines I need to address in my life before catastrophe? What else needs some attention, some healing, some counseling? And I think when times are easy, we need to be the good friend. And then when times are hard, it's okay to accept that help. Cheryl, you were so present and so helpful in those days, often without saying a word. And that was like a healing balm to my soul. So I think sometimes just reminding ourselves that we're designed for a relationship, be there for others when they're struggling, but be receptive to people ministering to you, I feel like is so important. And I would say, put God first.
Mm-hmm. I love you, friend. We've been friends since before Debbie had children. So
Yes. I mean, over 20 years.
yeah, 22. She had Landon in the nursery when she was a newborn baby. So,
It's such a gift.
well, I never, ever would have imagined that you would have to go through something like this in your life. But I'm so grateful to be your friend and to have known Aaron also and your kids. And yeah, it's my honor to do anything I can to love on you. And I think that the world needs more of that type of thing. If we could all step back and say, how can I love on somebody today or bless somebody, even if, maybe it's somebody who's going through something hard like this. But
yeah, absolutely. We need more Cheryls in the world. And I mean that so seriously.
Well, I would do anything for you.
Thank you. I love the way.
As we wrap up another insightful episode of Making Health Doable, we want to express our gratitude to you for joining us on this journey toward better health and wellness.
At Doable Health, we're not just a podcast. We're a dedicated team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts.
And together, we're on a mission to serve employees and first responders, providing coaching workshops and masterclasses tailored to conquer the challenges of stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our commitment doesn't stop there. We're also passionate about improving wellness for individuals like you, offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because at the end of the day, whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual striving for better health, we're all human. And we firmly believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So as you go about your day, remember that you're not alone on your journey toward wellness. We're here to support you, encourage you, and provide you with the tools you need to thrive.
So stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, expert insights, and actionable advice in our future episodes. Be sure to like and subscribe on your podcast platform.
And don't forget to visit our website at doable.com, DOOABLE.com, for additional resources and updates. Until next time, remember that health is within reach.
And together we can make it doable.